Richie was angry at everyone, the world, but mostly himself. He had a near-death experience and couldn't work. Father of 3, filled with anxiety, depression, mid-bipolar, and insomnia. The doctors put him on a cocktail of drugs. Rich was binge eating, overgiving, and pushing just to get through the days. Like a lot of you listening right now might be. One day he stood on the scales and thought, oh shit. He hated himself and felt trapped, 65 pounds overweight, 30 kgs. And he knew he had to let go of more than just the fat. There was something deeper, something lying under the surface. And for the first time, he reflected, released, and realigned. He's now down 30 kg, transformed his mind and his body, lives in Bali, and helps online coaches command and create through a process of realigning the nervous system. This is 100 pounds to freedom. Rich, my man, welcome to the podcast.
Kev, how's it going, man? Thanks for having me.
Mate, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on board, man. Let's rip straight into it. Let's start at the beginning. Let's start with your childhood. Were you like a fat kid? Were you a chubby kid?
You know, I did get teased a lot when I was younger, like when I started school, probably around about, starting school. So I had a bit of a pudge. I wasn't overly overweight, but I was never like, the fit athletic kid. So that was a whole thing for sure.
I thought that could have gone either way. Like you might have been this crazy fit sort of whippersnapper, like a halfback if you were playing rugby or something like that. But you were just kind of just sitting in that groove. Bullying can be a real thing, eh? Like I know myself through the majority of my childhood, I carried a bit of weight. I'm going to tell you a quick, before we dive deeper into it, mate, I'm going to tell you a quick funny story. So I was 11 or 12 and I was at intermediate, and this TV crew came to school, right? And they were filming kids running around the field, and the teacher was just saying, hey, we want you guys to run around, they're going to film you. And one of the people, it must have been the producer or whatever, come and sort of hand-picked me. There was like me and a couple other people and said, hey, listen, we want to sort of focus on you and a couple of other people. And I was like, oh, wow. And I remember coming back at lunchtime and saying to my friends, oh, listen, they want me on set shortly, so I can't really play this or hang out, and I was feeling like a bit important in that. And anyway, again, we went out, ran around the field, and I'm thinking these cameras, and I'm thinking, oh, mate, this is my foray, this is my ticket to Hollywood. This is back in the day of VHS, right, and TV. I think we had, I don't know, a couple of years earlier just got a colour TV. And
Why?
My uncle, mate, who, lived, sort of 20 Ks away, they were doing well for themselves, mate. So they had bought a VHS, it was just the new thing that had come out. And he recorded it, managed to get a copy, and I played it. And the entire story, like on the news, was about childhood obesity. And I was mortified, I couldn't believe it. Also, I was picking up the way I was running, mate. It was super weird. So I learned how to run a bit better after that. I digress. When did you gain the weight?
I like to call it like the daddy weight. I never had a six pack. There are times where I was really, really fit, really not fit. But it was around about 2012. That's when my son, Hunter, that's when he was born. So I just had this near-death experience in Thailand, and when I got back to Australia, I couldn't work. So I took some time off. My son was born, and I thought, I've been working at that point for like 10 years straight anyway, nearly, because I left high school. I remember just wearing track pants every day and going to Macca's and spending like this beautiful time with him, and just no work, sleeping on the couch outside in summer. And then, started to really pack on the weight there.
Let's backtrack a little bit to Thailand. So this near-death experience, like what was it? Did you get physically injured or?
Yeah, so, those were kind of like, the Richie rich days, the wild days. So I was doing like mixed martial arts like 5 or 6 times a week, and I got a week off work. So it's a funny story. My friend, she actually she was getting her tits done in Thailand,
Of course
and
she was.
really good friend. And I figured I've got a week off, maybe like chaperone her, check out Thailand, and it was great. You know, she did her surgery, all went well, and then sort of after that, you know, I was going out all day, every day, and it was this night where she was unwell and she had to go back to the hospital. And then that next morning or that next night, I woke up and I was really sick. So I went to the hospital as well. So we were both there, both fucked. And see, I weighed about 74 kilos then. I was like fighting fit. Still didn't have a six pack though for all the training because I was eating like enough for 3 people. And yeah, I started throwing up. There was like blood coming out, and I thought something's not right. It was like The Shining. I remember like I started to like feverish, didn't know what was wrong. I was like, something's really not right. And when I was at the hospital, you know, they were like trying to get. I went from like a really respected and supported tourist to more like a sale. It was really scary, and they took me into this room, checked me out. They're trying to get my Visa card and payment up front and all this stuff when I had insurance, but they hadn't diagnosed me yet or anything. And I was like, feel like I'm dying. So they took me out the back, and what they do, they're meant to do to knock me out, put me to sleep, and then do that.
What for? Just to diagnose you?
I don't know. I'm out of it. Like I'm barely able to stand. Suddenly this whatever's this bug that's running through me or whatever it was, whatever I'm purging, and I'm talking like torrents of blood. Like it's scary because you know they tell you if that's happening, something bad's happening. I'm like, oh fuck, I'm gonna die. I don't know why.
It's a stomach ache. This is serious. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So they take me to this room. They sit me on the bench, and there's like 4 or 5 of them, and they give me this spray, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna put this camera down your throat." And I'm like, I can barely like manage what's happening, and then they grab me and they put this camera down my throat. They start putting this thing down my throat before I'm out, and I'm like choking out, like, and I was fighting fit then for martial arts, and it was probably the strongest and fittest I'd ever been, and it took about 4 or 5 of them to hold me down, and I was like fighting and like trying to get them off, saying like I can't breathe, like fucking stop. And I remember just being like, all right, that's it. It wasn't whatever is going on with me that killed me. It's these doctors. It was pretty fucking scary, and I just made my peace at that moment. Was like, all right, and then everything went black, and next minute, think I'm alive. Yeah, that was wild. And my friend, she was there, and you know, I won't say her name. She was like, "Yep, boobs are good. You need to wake up." I was like, "Yep, great." I said, "We need to get the fuck out of here because I think that was malpractice. I think they nearly killed me. I don't know. Maybe I was just freaking out." But then it was like a prison break out of the hospital.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
a sign out. It almost sounds like I don't know. I'm thinking organ harvesting. That came to mind when you were saying it. I was thinking, get a bit of money on the black market there, mate. Fit young fella, you know, some good kidneys.
Yeah. When I got back to Australia after that, I couldn't hold a job. I was like PTSD, and that sort of cracked me open to start looking for some answers. And
Interesting. Okay. So it was 2012 that you packed on all the weight, right? Like you basically put on 30 kgs in a couple of years. So you just started a business at that time?
yeah, so I mean, after Thailand, lost my job, was like, maybe I'll join the army, you know, just get this, because I was so angry about life, what happened, and just everything, and like growing up, and didn't know I was. So I came this close to joining the army, but then my son was born. And I thought, well, what a beautiful thing to just spend a bunch of time with him when he's little. And I noticed like I had a lot of, well, I didn't know what it was. I was like, knew I was carrying something. You know, I needed to sort myself out. Because I got back and I went to the doctors, and straight away they're like, look, medication, anxiety, depression, mid-bipolar, depression, all of these, I ended up on like 10 different tablets, and like every few months there'd be an extra tablet. So I went through this huge mental health thing through the whole system. And between not working, I stopped training, I stopped working, taking all these prescription tablets. I got very addicted to it all. Then I started drinking, and it became this insane cocktail. And I was like, I need to do something. So I started this business. Just started a barbecue cleaning business because, I'd worked in retail selling barbecues. I love cooking barbecues, and for his birthday, I cleaned the barbecue, and we had like it took me like 2 hours to clean this thing. Then I cooked maybe 10 kilos of chicken wings for everybody that came, and this thing was wrecked afterwards. And I was like, I'll have to clean it again. And this barbecue was like, it was a Porsche barbecue. It was like a $2,000-$3,000 Crossray technology bloody.
Porsche, hang on, Porsche as in the car Porsche?
Yeah.
They make barbecues.
Yeah. So the family business that I left school to run with my dad, he gave me for my birthday this Porsche barbecue, this prototype thing. So, and wicked barbecue. And then after the birthday, I was like, I don't want to look at this bloody thing. So my mate, he's like, oh, I'll have it. So I was like, you know what? If I don't have to look at it or clean it again, because that took me all day to get ready for this thing, I was just like, just fuck it off. So he took it. He takes it, and he invites me over for a coffee the next week, and it's mint. It's brand new. It's clean. And I'm like, it's beeped. And I'm like, what'd you do? He goes, yeah. He goes, oh, I only took a couple hours with the pressure washer. I was like, pressure washer? Oh, yeah. Okay. So I thought, it's like, ding. And I was like, I could do that. I know how to do that. And like, because I knew all the workings, because I'd, So I started this, built a website, got on page 1 on Google, just went all in on this business, systemized it. And it was kind of like a vehicle I didn't know at the time, but to fix myself. I didn't know what purpose was, mindset, business plan. I was on Centrelink or, like welfare. I was, all these personal issues, and it was just brute force, let's just do this, and ended up making like, I think it was about $25,000 or $26,000 in like the first Christmas. But man, I was hustling like that month of December. They were like 15, 20-hour days. And tough work. Yeah.
Everyone wants their barbecue clean for Christmas, right? So you start this business, you're pretty successful, page 1 Google. How did that transpire into you putting on all this weight? Was it just you're working all the time, so hey, you're just buying takeout, or?
Think about, so like I'm not working, then I start this business. So I used to be standing up all day, training every day, going out every night, to being basically horizontal or sitting at a computer unless I'm going out to clean a barbecue. And then, I'm drinking like, half a bottle of Jacks every day, smoking a pack of cigarettes, taking these prescription medications, and they're just ballooning me. And then at like, 12 a.m., because I'm working such big days, like either on the computer or cleaning things, I didn't even notice because I'm not wearing like nice pants anymore. I'm wearing like high vis or like workwear or trackies or basketball shorts. I'm going to Macca's at like 12 a.m., 2 a.m., 4 a.m. I'm hitting Macca's every day, and anything just, on the road. So I'm just starting to, between booze and bad food and not moving, like exercising properly, and the meds. And I'm like just becoming a beefcake, and I put on 30 kilos. I hit 103 kilos. So there's this day where I was like you love this. I'm in the shower. I'm like trying to like clean my, hit my shoulders and reach all those spots behind you. And I'm like, man, I'm kind of out of breath. I'm having these nightmares, like these bad dreams. I'm like, I feel like I'm dying, but it's not really registering. So I get out of the shower and I stand on scales. I haven't done that for like 2 years or something. And I look down, I'm like, oh shit. Well,
These must be broken.
yeah, I'm like, is this right? Wait, like, is this right? And my missus at the time, she's like, yeah. and that was another like, oh, okay. I'm fat. I'm not well. It scared the shit out of me. I was like, fuck.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how it can catch up on you. I remember having a similar thing where I had ballooned up to 120, and literally 2-3 weeks earlier I was like 113, 114, and I actually did the opposite. I kind of monitored my weight quite frequently. Anyway, I thought, oh no, these scales definitely are wrong, and I think I had to go to the doctors with one of my kids. I thought I'd jump on their scales, and it was the same weight, and it was just, how the hell did this happen, like in 2-3 weeks, So for the next few years you sort of bounced around back and forth as far as weight goes. Do you think something external was responsible? Like if you look at the times in your life where you lost weight, but then you regained it, what was going on for you right then? What was it, stress induced, or you weren't feeling yourself? If you started losing, what made you bounce back and put it back on?
I mean, who I was becoming was not myself. It was like this version of me that felt like he needed to push to get love, had to overgive, just cross all his boundaries just to make a bit of money or get a bit of love, get a bit of attention. And if that's what you're asking, it was like this big performance really of somebody that wasn't really me. He was carrying all this stress, all this all this stress from growing up, like seeing a lot of stuff with parents breaking up, a lot of stress with seeing myself going from school to just going straight into work. My daughter was born in 2014, around about that bulk heaviness. And I remember picking her up, and I just Josephine, and I picked her up, and she's like, "I love you, Dad," and I just felt that. That unconditional love that just goes straight through you and cracks you open. And I was like, fuck, I love you too, honey. And I just heard this thought in my voice. And I was like, so why don't I love myself that much? It was a weird thought. So I guess I was packing on all this weight to sort of reach some sort of a threshold to wake up to some things that needed to change.
Do you feel like internally you were self-destructing and you just thought, I'm just going to ride this train, not knowing that you were heading towards rock bottom, but you kind of wanted to go there? You were kind of like, hey, fuck it, like this just made money. At the same time, during that period, you're on the meds, right? You're on all this different medication.
Yeah, I was on this different medication, and I guess, I didn't know there was any other way. It was just all or nothing. Kind of like with training, like with business, like with relationship. It was go in, go hard, push, hustle, get the job done. And it became a very useful mechanism, I guess, or strategy to create things, but it was never sustainable. And I kept going through those cycles and bouts in all of those areas of health and relationship, dread and drama instead of like then it was a bit of fun and freedom, but then back to that. Same with like huge months and then really, really low months, huge emotions, and then like really good peaks and that, but then the valleys, and they're just so hard. And I was like, this is shit. Like, and I guess what I was coming to full circle was getting to a point of realizing that I'm crossing my own boundary on how I believe I would really want to live or who I really am. But I had no idea how to even state that, because there's no map for that. There's no role model for that. And I'm just out here like, this is what's, I started the, the business on a whim. There was this startup business program, and there's this thing called mentoring. And I remember being in the room, and there's this dude stands up from one of the banks in Adelaide, and he comes in, and he's like a non-for-profit, and he's like, if there's anybody here who really wants to make a move with their business, you get the funding, and it's very little, but it was a real leg up for where I was. And he's like, if you need to talk to somebody, I'm here. And I was like, no one in the room put their hand up. And I was like, well, I'll fucking do it. Like, if any, like, I'm drowning here. Like, I want to live, but I'm acting like I want to die, and any help would be appreciated. So I took every bit of help I could get and started that business, scaled it up, sold it, because like I just got to that tipping point where I was like, if I keep doing this any longer, I'm going to die. Like, and I just kept hitting this, I hit that a few times. And I remember having that chat with myself and people around me. They're like, if you just keep going for another 10 years, you'll crack a mill. And I was like, 10 more years doing this? Like, I can't do one more season. Like, I'm not going to be here for my kids. Like, something's got to change, because, like, there's got to be more to it than this. It's got to feel better than this.
So what was the belief? What was the belief that you had to break to finally create that change?
I think the thing that shifted it, other than, coming to this understanding that until I put myself first and love myself, and it's not some big like party or spa day or recovery, I just need to look after me. And it was around about, I reckon the tipping point, the big one. I mean, there's so many tipping points, Kev, but I found out that my partner, she was pregnant with my third daughter, Alice. And I'm like, I've sold the cleaning business, I've started coaching, and it's that pattern's still playing out though, hit another big month, and I'm like, oh, it's happening again. So I actually won this free session with my mentor. Shout out to Matt Catling. Still working with him to this very day. Absolute wizard in business and mindset. And I somehow, magically won this like a raffle free session. And I've been watching him on YouTube, and it was like I'd already, spoken with him for ages. So he called me and gave me this session. He reflected back to me that I was still angry. And he traced back like the blocks I kept having in relationships in business to this anger, which was rooted in this stuff from childhood that I'd been carrying. And I thought I wasn't putting it out anymore, but it's still leaking out in everything, even when I'm, not talking. So it was like a repressed anger, and underneath all of that anger, like you're asking me, like, what was the belief? So we did this process, and went down from like the anger, and underneath all of that was a bunch of sadness, a bunch of hurt, a bunch of guilt, a bunch of shame, rooted in this like deep belief that came from my childhood, where it's just like, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, like, I've got to do this fucking song and dance just to feel safe, just to feel a bit of love, which was learned from back then and definitely passed down through generations. And, it's almost like a stack when you go down to core identity. I found like underneath, like, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm hurt, and these are all these emotions. And it's just this deep sense of like underneath unworthy or unlovable. It's like the big question is, do I even matter? Do I if I don't do all this for everybody else, this business, this relationship, this big show, if I don't go to the gym or provide or security or do all this shit and help all the clients and look good on social media and all that shit. And I was like, but what about me? You know, I'm dying to do all of this stuff just to get what? And that's what, like, as a structure, what I saw, everything was built on. And I was seeing it everywhere with my friends and my family, even like different mentors and coaches and people in the different industries. I was like, fuck, man, this human experience, like, and that, man.
So just that overall feeling was just, you're not enough. Did you ever feel like checking out? Did you have thoughts of, is it even going to matter if I'm here?
You know, I've always heard those thoughts, and I've always questioned, is that really me though? Or is that some other thing? Because if I'm hearing that, if I'm seeing that, because I love fucking living, you know what I mean? So, and that was the deep question. It's like, why am I doing all this shit and listening to this voice or these voices in my head that drive me to smoke, to drink, to get caught up in dramas and, you know, be a real dickhead to a lot of people that I care about and all this stuff, when that's not really me? Like what's that about? And why would I do stuff that looks like I want to check out, you know, and it's really just some big fucking tantrum or cry for help. And the only person that's going to help me is me, really, because no one can fix this for me. That's what I was. So yeah, dude, like on one side, I'd say, yeah, but the truth is it was all just like trying to find a way to wake up from that nightmare, because it's not true. And I think so many people live with this nightmare and they won't tell anyone. They're suffering in silence. You know, they might tell a friend, maybe. They might tell a therapist. They'll probably tell ChatGPT more than they tell anybody else these days. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can you give me 5 reasons why I'm such a piece of shit? Yeah.
Of course.
Would you like to put in a PDF or maybe a carousel? Yeah.
Nah, mate, put it in Notion. Come on.
Exactly. Mate, how was your self-esteem at your biggest? Like, I've seen and we'll put them up, the before and after photos. Dramatic change, by the way. Congratulations, bro. Kudos, mate. Working on yourself there. How was your self-esteem? Like the way clothes fitted, the way you carried yourself? Did you kind of feel fat on the outside as well? Or was it just you felt fat and, you know, not good about yourself, concerned about the future on the inside? Or did that manifest as well with you wondering what other people thought, like you walking down the road or playing with the kids? Or
Yeah, dude. I mean, like the biggest thing was like my mobility. It's like I hurt my back, like, you know, I had this back injury on top of the weight and all these other issues that I had to work through. So it was like, if just about anything could go wrong, I mean, kind of did. And I guess clothes really stopped. Like I had to get bigger clothes. I became very uncomfortable. And I guess it just amplified the insecurity or the need to prove like that to look better. So maybe there was, you know, a different car or different jewelry or different brand or something like that. But after a while I started thinking, man, this stuff's all bullshit. Like this is just not who I am, and it's covering up something that it's not even covering it up, you know? It's not even helping. So I started getting rid of things just naturally.
do you think that looking fit, looking, call it fit, athletic, jacked or whatever, is synonymous with success? You're in the coaching game. Coaches by nature are generally quite public on social media. You had to look a certain way to be successful. Like think of you now, fit compared to how you were.
Yeah. So let's say the old Richie or the old life, it was like do all these things to look cool or to sort of resonate with what's out there to try and match that. But the shift was really going, well, if I could lose all this weight in a healthy way, what would that change Like, what would I have to let go of, and how would that improve my life, and how would that improve business? How would that improve connection? Because if I like look at, say, I'm starting to see a bit of a six pack come through now for the first time ever, you know, but that's kind of like the bonus. It's like the icing on the cake, maybe, because it's really just, it's like checking the bank balance, or, you know, having stuff or things, or, you know, awesome people in my life now, where they're really not the goal. It's the byproduct of being a person who's living truer to his own personal alignment and keeping the promises to himself, which is my personal outlook of like, well, what's integrity or self-worth? And it's really just doing the things that line up with who I believe myself to be. And then it's not a push to get those things done. I mean, there may be hard days, you know, like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym, or I don't want to eat that chicken breast, I don't, you know, but then it's like, you know what I mean? But then there's also not I'm going to have a beer today, I'm going to have a piece of chocolate, without beating myself up for it as well. And so I think that's what, like, that unconscious energy, that frequency is telling myself first, you know what, you're safe to be you. You can do what you want, your way. You're putting yourself first. You can be kind to yourself. You can also stop being fat, stop being unhealthy, and you can go to the gym. You can get this stuff done and just do it, because it's who you are now. And because I'm keeping those promises to myself, I guess I've seen that shift. Like, my content's so not, wow, look at me, you know, it's more like, hey, here's the thing. Here's what's true. Here's more like the report, you know, been working with this person, had this huge result, you know, this is what's changed. And I think that's, like, I don't even care if that resonates with anyone, honestly, because anything else that I put out wouldn't be true. And then that would just build more of what isn't. So I think that's what, I mean, having a six pack for sure, it represents, or being healthier, or being like losing weight. I mean, you can still be super successful and drink a lot. You can still be super successful and be really overweight. But for me personally, I was like, well, but what, is that who I really want to be? Is that really me? Like, is that who the message I want to put out there? And I think that builds rapport, like unconscious trust with people. Even if someone's got way more money, or is way more jacked and ripped or sexy, but they've probably been through that journey of self-discovery and been through some hard yards and seasons and gone, wow, like, you know, even if somebody else, like, say I'm not there, I think there's an unspoken connection of, like, we've been through some shit. We don't need to, like, even brag about it or talk about it, you know, and just.
You'll find that, you know, like the most successful people, they're not talking about it. You know, they don't need to tell anyone about it. They already know their self-worth.
Yeah.
When I see someone that's, you know, let's, for want of another word, ripped, you know, they're really looking after themselves. To me, it's undeniable evidence that they're disciplined. You know, it's the one thing that money can't buy, you know, unless we're talking liposuction and ab implants or whatever, you know what I mean? But it just shows me that they've got something consistent that they're doing, you know, either that or they're a freak of nature with amazing genes. What rhythms keep you grounded, like in this new chapter? Like, how important is routine to you? And what does that look like for you to help keep you grounded, to help not only maybe get shredded, but to keep the weight off, right? So that you don't feel, and I imagine this is big for you psychologically, that you're slipping backwards, man. You know what I mean? So yeah, what rhythms are you rolling with?
Yeah, I love the especially the word rhythm, rather than habits or even like discipline. I mean, discipline's great. And I think the way I look at it is, what am I able to ritualize, and what rhythm can I put around that to just make it easy, like boringly simple. And so waking up, it's like right now I'm on a pretty low calories, 1,500 calories a day, and aiming to just hit, protein goals and knowing, all right, I'm going to have about this much in the morning. So, start with a coffee, black coffee usually, or maybe oat milk because it's low fat. And that's me being naughty now. That's, had milk, didn't have milk today.
So indulgent, mate.
So indulgent. But man, having like a black coffee, I've started eating breakfast for the first time in my life, which is just some sourdough, poached eggs. And the idea is, that's a gift I'm giving myself to ground me in the morning. So it's not just caffeine and jitters. There's the ritual or the I'm alive ceremony of I get to have this beautiful cup of coffee with these eggs and toast. And that's enough for the next few hours. And then I've found, because, this, like energy is different when you're in a cut, when you're dropping the weight. So you've got to, and, you're growing a business or traveling or, kids, anything like that. So I like to have a light breakfast, get a bit of food in there that tells my body, you don't have to I don't have to earn the food. Like I don't have to fast until fucking midday and push and all that stuff it's finding I've got this system now from, Wesley, and it's made it sustainable, measurable, trackable. So after mid-morning work, I'll go and grab some chicken breast, hit the gym, and the focus work generally happens before then. So that's when I'm most on. After the gym, then it's sort of more reflective work, walking, getting the steps in, and things that don't require as much focus, and then winding down and dinner. That's a party. I actually look forward to it'd be fish or chicken, it could be beef, it could be steak with some veg or rice, and maybe a Coke Zero.
Yeah.
Maybe a Bintang Crystal if I'm really living it up at the moment. And
The Bintang.
yeah. And wait, do you get into like yogurt and protein ever? That's like the new with berries.
Oh man, yeah, we're preaching to the choir, man. Yeah. Yeah, yogurt's like well at the moment, yeah, I'm doing a cut phase as well, and it's coming with its challenges. But yeah, that would be a little bit of a treat for me right now. But man, berries are crazy, man. Like they're so freaking good for you, nutritionally wise. Like there's just so much that they do for you that you need. And if you're combining that with protein and yogurt, especially for your gut health as well, if it's got the good bugs in it.
Yeah, man. I pretty much eat it every day. Look, man, I look forward to it. It's not some horrible thing that I have to have discipline. I think that for me anyway, that's the shift in I've got to be disciplined, I've got to do this. There's the key metrics, the inputs. And if I can put them in place where, this is when I want to have a nice breakfast, this is when I hit the gym, when I have lunch as a reward, just for being who I am and doing what I'm going to do anyway, it anchors in, like it's confirmation of, say the dude in the future, Richie, he's really, finished that cut, locked it in through the composition phase. He's, brought his calories up. That guy, he's still going to be living like this, just with a bit more, room, calories wise, probably a bit more energy, even more. But the steps that I'm taking, like you ask what habits or, those actions confirm that I'm that guy.
Yeah. Every day, right? It's a constant reminder. I love that, man. Yeah, I love that. Very similar phase myself. What advice would you give to someone? Let's say someone's 30 kg overweight, and let's not muck around here, mate. That's a lot of weight. It's a lot of weight to shift. Okay, it's not like, hey, you're 3 to 7 kgs overweight. What advice would you give to someone starting out? Someone that's maybe for the last couple of years tried diets, failed, maybe they lost a couple of kg, gained it back. What advice would you give them?
Me personally, I would say look at Like number one is get on the scales, get the tape measure out, and have a look in the mirror and ask, like, is that really, are you happy? I'd be like, get honest about it, because you can't change anything until you really, write it out and look at it and own the truth. And it's not at all, it's 0% about beating yourself up or shaming yourself. It's about going, I deserve the best. I deserve to give myself the best. And to do that, I've got to put myself first. It'd be like a real honest, sober conversation, being like, because then you can look at, well, this is where I'm at, and go, well, where do I really want to be if it's with my weight? And if you've tried dieting, if you've tried exercise and PTing and all of that stuff, I mean, those are strategies. They're definitely necessary. They're essential. But then I'd also say, look at what's going on deeper. Like, what in your life, like, where are you misaligned in your life? Like, are you getting are you angry or upset with yourself or with your partner or with your business? And trace those things back and look at, well, what's that really saying about me? Like, am I pushing too hard in my business? Do I need to slow things down a bit and see what falls apart? See what falls. You don't necessarily need to stop, but maybe if you stop trying to hold it all together for everybody else, for your clients, for your team, for your family. If you can just give yourself a bit of time and space, plus the reality check, and then talk to somebody who's outside of that structure, that can reflect back to you where you might be pushing unnecessarily, because you might be procrastinating on your health stuff, not fully committing to that. And you may not be scaling your business because you're scared, like I was, that you might fucking die or lose it all and lose everybody if you slow down, because that's going to just perpetuate that happening anyway. And you don't have to like let it all go or burn it all to the ground. Like, your relationship, because that's usually a thing that was for me anyway. It's like, you won't, like, whatever's meant for you will find you once you give yourself what you need. And first of all, it's honesty, truth, a clear target, and then to work out like what really needs to shift. Like, what do I really need to let go of? Why am I eating this food? Why am I taking this medication? Why am I smoking this? Why am I doing, these drugs or medication or booze or watching Netflix? All of those are just symptoms. Just look deeper and be like, well, what's the truth? And it's, am I afraid that if I stop pushing all of this, I'm going to have to feel that? And that's really the key. It's removing slowly. I wouldn't recommend just getting rid of it all at once. Is creating enough time and space to start dissolving and removing some of these strategies to keep pushing. And you'll start to find that underneath that is probably a little boy or a little girl who didn't get the love or the support that they probably needed, or the safety. And that all of this is like, it's just been a strategy. Like, all the business, the relationship, it's just been a way to get love or attention or significance. And it's a hard thing to admit. But once you start getting honest about that with yourself, you can start having really honest conversations with everybody that you love, that's around you, and asking for help, or saying, hey, I can't do this thing anymore. Like when I dropped my calories from probably, 3,000 to 5,000 a day to 1,500, I had to have those conversations with team, with clients, with friends, with partner, with co-parents, and be like, I got to do a bit less at the moment. I got to look after me. I got to make some changes. And it's in zero way a punishment. It's, I actually would love your understanding. And if not, that's cool. I just got to do this for me. And the people that love you will be there for you. The real ones will understand.
I love that, man. Someone approaching a family member, or, especially like a partner, like a spouse or a friend, and having that conversation with them, I mean, for the other person, you can't expect more than that. They've realized I've got a problem. I'm now being honest with myself. I need to deal with it.
Well, if I do what's good for me, I created this drawing, and then I get ignored, and then I get hurt, and then I get love, and then I got a cake or an ice block.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, it's so subtle. It's so fucking subtle. But imagine that happens. How many times do you reckon that happens for a kid?
Yeah.
Think about it. How many times do you think a kid watches that on TV? How many times does that happen at school? How many times does that happen on, at a friend's house? How many times does a kid see that happen around him or her? How many times does he or she see their parents do that? And these little events, mum comes home, she's stressed, dad comes home, he's stressed, they have an argument, the kid gets in the way, stop fighting, love me. That becomes the family pattern for creating relationship. And if you think about all business is relationship, and then that's how you sustain it. And then it's like, we're going to have a meal. Because maybe for a lot of people, eating dinner is the one time the family's together.
Yeah.
And that becomes, you can literally, every client I've ever had, you can trace back any unhealthy symptom or habit or current situation, or whether it's their health or business or relationship, like feeling overweight, stressed, addiction. I'm not saying it's everything. I'm saying it definitely started there though, because it wasn't there before that. If we can go back in time and have a look at that from a different perspective, have an honest conversation about it, and see it, from a different way, where what if that was, a painful thing that you went through, a pattern that you learned, so that now at this moment where you're feeling like you're 30 kilos overweight, your relationship's on the rocks, your business is making good money, but you feel like burning it down, and you're like holding it all together and inside screaming. And it's like, what if that was actually the catalyst to get you to this point, to wake you up? Because there's so much pain. What if it could wake you up now? Because some people just feel so much more than others, maybe. They're available to feel, and they go, well, why is that? And go, well, the opposite of feeling like a piece of shit is loving yourself. The opposite of being angry is maybe feeling love. If you feel hurt, maybe it's to feel safe. If we can go back in time and look at these core events, reframe them, release, the actual energy that's trapped there. This is what's worked for me anyway, is going, well, you know what? I don't need that burger and the fries and that. Keywords here, I don't need it. I might want it, but I'll want it because I'm going to enjoy the crap out of it.
Just one final question that may help some of the audience out there that are struggling with, either on one hand, it might be people pleasing, or, they're not putting the oxygen mask on themselves first. So they're not giving themselves that self-love. They're not putting themselves first. And so they've gained all this weight, but it's as a result of they're trying to please everyone and whatever. So in regards to boundaries, like, what do you protect now that you used to give away without even thinking about it?
Everything. That's the shortest answer. But the way I look at boundaries, Kev, it's a true boundary doesn't need to be spoken. A true boundary is energetic. You don't have things you don't want coming into your field. Can you hear me, mate? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, a boundary is something that doesn't just protect you in the sense of you're going to be hurt or attacked. What it does, it creates more love. Like, instead of it being a spiky, fuck off, don't hurt me thing, because that's not an integrated boundary. That's still in shadow. A real boundary that comes from a place of deep alignment, truth, integrity, it supports everybody else around you in the places that you go. It's firm, but it's soft. And it usually, it's so rare for it to need to even be spoken, because you embody the level of love that you have for yourself as well as others, as well as the spaces that you travel. So when it comes to what that shifts tangibly, your time, your energy, your focus, your resources, your money, your attention, all of that transpires as an expression of who you really are. And that becomes the boundary. And then when you, like, this is the thing, when you say you do some deep release work, you clean up that stuff from childhood, and then you start, making healthier choices that are aligned. And you also enjoy doing some unhealthy things without shaming yourself. It means that you're now in a ruthless state of love where you won't betray your heart ever again. You won't betray yourself anymore. And, there may be some conversations to have, but generally those conversations are loving, educational, because you don't need to have those big boundary chats. Everything becomes a lot lighter. Everything becomes a lot easier.
What I'm getting from this, man, you just took me on a little journey here, right?
Yeah.
What I'm getting.
Take me with you.
Okay,
Let's go.
What I'm getting from this is that once you step into this and you start living, let's call it your best life, true to yourself, you're almost vibrating on this frequency where it's almost like an invisible electric fence that is flexible as well, that breathes, meaning it's keeping out the shit without you having to enforce it, and it's keeping the best of you close to you. That's what I sort of picked up visually from that statement.
Can I build on that?
Yeah, let's go. Let's build, man.
What I would like to tell somebody is the timeline that you're on right now isn't even yours. That overweight, overdoing it, overextending, overgiving, pushing, hustling, and self-medicating, all of that stuff, you're living on a timeline that's not even yours. So when you release the energy or the emotions and the beliefs from the past that are, trapping you, your business doesn't feel aligned, your relationship doesn't feel aligned anymore, your life doesn't feel aligned, so it immediately shifts because you shifted. And what happens is that old timeline, whether it was mum and dad's, societies, or whoever else's it was, you unburden yourself from that burden of performance. Once you let go of that and start dissolving that, all of those old environments, surrounding influences, people, habits, temptations, they can't even fucking find you because that version of you no longer exists. That version of you never really existed anyway. And so, if it's a dramatic relationship with team, client, friend, or whatever, it's just a reflection of you, of a version that was performing for somebody who they really aren't, carrying something that was never really theirs. And then when you snip that timeline, that's what I mean about collapsing the time it takes to scale, because it's not even about scaling. It's about the human, that's the thing. It's that person behind the business. What about that human? And what about their family? And what about their health? And when you do that, it's not about becoming the highest, truest, most authentic bullshit version of yourself, because all of that's a performance as well. It's about ending that entire performance completely and just being like, just remember who the fuck you are without all of that. And that's a confronting thing. But if you're willing to meet yourself, and if you have people around you, powerful, clean mirrors, good people around you that can reflect back that to you, and if you're willing to receive the truth, I think the level of alignment and peace that we're able to access and live comes down to how much truth we're willing to meet. You say, you're fat. I had a friend say that to me. He goes, it's 2024, you're fat. And I was like, you're right, let's do something about it. It wasn't to hurt me. It was, I see you as a king, or I see you as a queen, you're a legend and you deserve the best. So how do you give that to yourself? And usually it's not about adding more things, it's about subtracting things. Subtract everything that's not true, all the misalignments. You release that stuff, you realign yourself, and everything shifts immediately without having to go and put all this stuff in place, more strategies, and whether it's in health or business or anything, it's just about, becoming who you really are and remembering that. And then you live on a completely different timeline. Everything comes to you instantly. You start losing weight rapidly. The right people find you instead of you because your resonance has changed. That's how you become energetically attractive or magnetic. You dissolve all the shit that was never yours.
Love it, man.
Yeah, man. Like I just think we've got a limited amount of time here, and the amount of time that could be lost when one conversation could save, like, has saved me and people I like, the mentoring I've done, from with the healing and work I've done on myself, or supported others with. 1 hour personally saved me. I got more out of 1 hour than I did in 10 years of self-help and therapy through the medical system. Not to say it didn't help get me to that point, but if you're at that point and you're like, something needs to change, you're right. It doesn't need to be this hard.
There's so much to unpack there, mate. Rich, where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like Instagram, real.alignment. Yeah, on Facebook as well, rich.real.alignment.
If you're listening to this and you're stuck in that middle ground where you're in a loop, and whether it's weight is your problem or something else, and what Richie's saying to you is resonating with you, do reach out to him, have a conversation. Thanks for being on the show, Rich.
Dude, thanks for having me.
Absolutely awesome. Cheers.
Fucking love you, dude. Cheers.
Love you too, brother.
Thanks for listening, my friend. If you want to find our YouTube channel or info on how you can drop the weight and rebuild your life, or maybe you'd like to be a guest on the show, head on over to 100poundstofreedom.com. That's the digits 100poundstofreedom.com. And we'll see you over there.